What's up, y'all? Welcome to a new episode of That's What She Said with Hannah Stevens. I have a very special guest and another guest. So I have two guests today here on this new episode. And for y'all who don't know, maybe you missed last week's episode with James Spann. I have changed my podcast completely, going not talking about sports anymore, but talking about game changers, people who have changed the game. Maybe it's in their sport or their business or their life or whatever it looks like, how they change the game. And so I have two game changers right here. Obviously, Hannah Stevens sitting here with
Andy Wynn and Alex Drueke.
And if you've not heard of these men yet, I am so excited to get to share their story with you and let them share their story. These are two Americans. My friend Andy right here, who I've known for, I don't know how many years? Three or four years. And so these guys went to Ukraine, obviously with a heart to serve. And so I'm going to let them share their story, but I just want to give you a little tidbit. If you do not know them yet, you probably do, but if you don't, you're about to. So anyway, I am so honored that both of you are sitting down with me today. Thank you so much. And I'm first off, before we dive in, I just want to know I'm so glad both of y'all are home.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back and give y'all both. We can just tag team. You can go, whoever. Tell me your background, both of you, and why you decided to go to Ukraine.
Well, my name is Andy Wynn, as I stated before. I'm 27 years old. I served in the Marine Corps active duty from 2014 to 2018. Got out. I've never been deployed. So for me, the reason why I went to Ukraine was, to put it simply, to help any way I can. And to put it even more simple, if you see someone getting bullied, do something about it. Don't just sit around doing nothing.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm glad. I mean, I remember walking, our church kind of sending you off, and I mean, it was one of those things where like you respect and admire someone who does what they know they're called to do. So I still am so proud of you for going over there.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Alex Drueke. I was in the U.S. Army from 2002 to 2014, 2 tours in Iraq. Really that's kind of why I went to Ukraine. I realized that I had some skills, I had some knowledge, I had some experiences that I really thought could be, like Andy said, of help over there. I think both of us, regardless of what Ukraine wanted us to do when we showed up there, we wanted to help.
Yeah. So, the next question was going to be, what's your purpose in going, which I really feel like y'all hit on the head. Obviously, you were more of the person that's like, I can't watch people being bullied when, I can do something about it. And y'all both had that heart to go over there and serve and help in whatever capacity that looked like.
Yeah.
Obviously we know a little bit of what happened. Obviously y'all got captured, but let's go back to the day of that. What was the nature of your mission the day you were captured? What were y'all up to that day?
Our mission was reconnaissance, find out where the enemy positions were and report back.
Yeah, that's really all it was.
Yeah. So, okay. Obviously, like I said, we know you are captured. So take me back there. What happened when you were captured? Like, when you look at from point A to point B, like what happened? And obviously we're going to talk a little bit about, what happened while you were captured, but what happened when you were captured?
Well, I mean, we were captured by Russians operating in the area. And then we were immediately stripped of all our gear. We were put down on our knees. Our hands were bound. We had bags on our head, and we thought they were going to execute us. They chose not to at that point.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Glad about that.
A little bit glad about that.
Yes. All right. So obviously we know y'all are now in captivity. How were you treated, and what was your experience while you were captured?
Horrible.
Yeah. Pretty bad. There was a lot of physical torture, mental, emotional, throughout, like not just all like the one time, but spanned out through our whole captivity.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to the next one. What was your biggest challenge you faced during captivity?
That's a really, really tough one. It was, I mean, like Andy just said, I mean, it was every form of torture you can think of. And we're having to do it all at one time, but I think overall the biggest problem for me was probably the boredom by the time we got to the prison.
Yeah.
Russia was pretty busy. The black site was pretty busy. That was where all the interrogation was happening. When they finally put us in the prison, they were just about done with all the questioning. So it was just trying to fill all the hours when you're locked in a cell for 23 hours a day.
Yeah. And I guess I'll go ahead.
For me personally, more or less it was actually the same. Yes, the physical stuff was bad at the very beginning, but it's physical pain. It'll go away. It'll heal. You don't get killed obviously
Yeah.
from the get go. But on the mental side, it was just the boredom.
Mhm.
It's hard to like when you are isolated for so long and
Mhm.
all you have to do is stew in your thoughts.
Mhm.
You run out of ideas. You run out of things
Yeah.
to think about.
Yeah.
And just coming up with new ways to entertain yourself
Yeah.
is probably one of the hardest things.
That would be super hard. I guess kind of piggyback off of that, were y'all, and I guess this is the question I'm just thinking of that I've wondered, were y'all always in the same cell or were y'all, no?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, immediately when we got to Russia, we were separated. We spent a week there that we were separate. Then we went to the black site where we were separate. I mean, every once in a while they'd have to transport us
Yeah.
somewhere and we'd be together, but we couldn't talk. We
Yeah.
were bound in bags and everything. So yeah, for a month and a half, we were separate.
Wow.
It wasn't until we got to the final site there at the prison that we were in the same cell. Yeah.
And I guess I'm gonna ask this because you just said this. What, like, obviously you do run out of thoughts. Like, what do you do when you're bored? Like, I mean, are you like
Well,
drawing in something, or are you counting sheep? Like, what do you do?
for me personally, when prior to Alex and I being in the same
Yeah.
cell together, for me, simple like I try to play simple mind games.
Mhm.
This part really isn't a mind game, but I was counting the tiles in my cell,
Yeah.
and there are 315 in my first cell. Just
Wow.
counting all of it. Just
Yeah.
these are the only thing you have to do.
Yeah.
Daydreams about, for example, like video games I played. Just
Yeah.
kind of going through that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done some construction in the past, and so I've built multiple houses in my
Nice.
head, like nail by nail, board by board. And but you
Yeah.
run out of that too. We
Yeah.
lost the ability to daydream. It was such a weird feeling.
Yeah.
Fortunately, when Alex and I were eventually like reunited, we actually had a lot of
Yeah.
mind games,
Yeah.
honestly, that we played.
Good mind game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Or chessboard made out of trash.
Yeah. Like, funny enough, it's like Alex and I discovered that I have a odd knack of guessing random, like, well and correctly on 20 questions.
Wow.
Just like the most random.
Make some leaps. that
Yeah.
You're like, how'd you even get there? But you're right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then for more physical, like we made a chessboard out of trash. Like
Wow.
we're not good at chess by any means,
Yeah,
but
me either.
we got better with each other, like
Yeah.
playing chess.
Yeah. That's awesome. See, no one ever knows. I would never have known that. That's really cool. All right. So, okay. So obviously you were kind of the person more that spoke to the media. And I can edit this out. I'm just thinking this too. Or is there a reason for that? Was there a reason that you spoke more than Andy, or?
We're not entirely sure. We feel like there's several reasons.
Yeah.
One thing that we know they did this with the British guys as well is they just said, okay, we're picking this one person as a spokesperson.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
who we're gonna
Yeah.
force to call home. It wasn't that I got to call home, I was
Yeah.
being forced to call
Yeah.
home. And so I think that's probably the primary reason.
Yeah.
They said, well, we're gonna pick this guy for whatever reason it is,
Yeah.
and then they stuck with me.
Yeah.
And like, what's right?
Yeah, but I do want to stress, like, all of those calls, whether it was State Department or
Yeah.
my family or media, all of that was under duress.
Yeah,
The-
for
the-
sure.
The guys who were beating me were in the room with me. So,
Yeah.
And for like the family calls, they weren't allowing him to call his family out of goodness of their heart. They were
Yeah.
doing more of like a reward, like, hey, you call the State Department or your government.
Or also, what kind of information can we get out of your family?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
State Department was real careful when they talked on the phone. I think maybe they thought my family would give up information that the State Department wasn't,
Yeah.
but my family did not.
Yeah. So that got to goes. My next question for you is, two media questions. Did the Russians try and tell you what to say? Like, were they telling you what to say, or? Yeah. 100%.
Even the videos we had
Yeah.
to do, the
Yeah.
interviews. I mean, it was just propaganda videos.
For sure.
And yeah, there were certain things we had to say. There
Yeah.
were certain things we were not allowed to say.
Yeah.
They would make us parrot Russian phrases, and I mean, yeah,
Wow.
they were putting words in our
Yeah.
mouth for sure. Yeah.
I think one thing that we've learned in our media over the last years is you're not always 100% sure if you're getting the right story. And when you see the news now, like, is our media doing a good job actually showing what's going on over in Ukraine or Russia, or do you think that there's only half the story? Like, what's your take on that?
I think
Because obviously y'all went over there, so
Right.
it's one of those things where I feel like until you're over there, maybe you don't.
and I feel like we got an even more unique perspective
Yeah.
since we were being held by DPR personnel and Russians. They really wanted to give their version of the story.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But I could see, I think America is reporting really well on the war by and
Yeah.
large, but a lot of them aren't. They aren't necessarily covering what's caused this war.
Exactly.
Because the separatist movement started 8 years ago.
Exactly.
And I think there's a lot of background information, context clues that really aren't getting out to the
Yeah.
American public.
And
you know.
I really hope they do, because
I
I
hope
feel
so
like,
too,
you
yeah.
know, it's one of those things where, you know, if you don't give the backstory, I mean, and that's what our history books are, you know, like it's easy to look back, hindsight's 2020, be like, well, oh, this happened because of this. I mean, when you look at all the wars, it's very easy for us to see now, like in 3 paragraphs before, this is what happened. But when you're in it and in this moment, like it's very easy for that not to be shared. And so I really wish it would be, because I feel like it would bring so much clarity
I think
to
so.
actually what's happening.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, moving on. And I have these notes in my phone because I wanted to, you know, share ahead of time with them. Okay, let's see. This is something that I said beforehand when I was talking to y'all, that this is something I'm passionate about, is what would you say to someone who doesn't understand or agree with y'all going over there? Obviously, their opinion doesn't matter, but what would you say to someone that's like, dude, why would you spend your own money and go over there knowing it's not safe? Like, what would you say to someone like that?
It kind of goes back to what you said, that yes, it doesn't matter in the end of the day.
Yeah.
Really, their opinion doesn't matter about what we do.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, what I think is, if a person doesn't go out of their way to do in what they believe is right,
Yeah.
what kind of person are they?
Exactly.
For me personally, I actually had a lot to think about, like when I was in captivity.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like self-reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I have no regrets ever going.
Mm-hmm.
At least, for example, if I die, I know I can die without ever, or I can at least look at myself in the mirror.
Yeah.
But every time I wake up, I'm proud of myself.
Yeah.
I look in the mirror, I'm like, I did what I believe was right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What about you?
Yeah, I've got to agree with Andy on that one. I think I would add in that I think both of us, you know, at least me, we really did possibly see this Ukraine not being quite as strong as they had. I think most of the world expected that they would fall pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then that Putin was not going to be satisfied and keep going.
Yeah.
So I think Andy and I said it doesn't matter what it costs us. We have to stop it.
Yeah. Completely admirable. I want you to know. Very admirable. All right. So obviously you're in captivity, and I kind of want to know, you know, were y'all surprised you were released, and like, how did you find out that you were being released? Because I mean,
We didn't.
You know, we actually didn't know that at first we were being released. One of the guards in our prison actually, like, one of our prison mates like asked him like what's happening, and I think he said, I think you're being
He
released.
said, I think you're being released.
Yeah. And this particular guard has been known to kind of joke around a lot, so we couldn't really tell if he was serious or not. One day he could be nice, more or less, and then other days he can just be very cold and like mean.
Just say, well, it doesn't matter. You're going to die anyway.
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So we never knew.
Yeah. So initially we didn't really think that we were actually being freed. It was one of the options. Our main 3 options that we usually agree upon is either we were getting moved to another holding area prison of some sort to be exchanged.
Yeah.
We were getting exchanged, or the worst possible case, we were getting executed.
Yeah.
But we never confirmed that we were getting exchanged during that time frame.
And that release process, it wasn't just like, hey, we're going to take it from the prison to the plane. It was about a 24-hour process.
Oh my.
Of pure torture for us, absolute pure torture for us. And then we just were put on a Saudi plane eventually. And that's when we thought, when we were taking off and they're explaining like, hey, you guys are free. Here's what we're doing for you. We're like, we might be getting released.
Like you're thinking, is this actually happening?
Right, exactly.
I mean, explain the plane thing. I mean, explain pulling up to that and getting on, like, I mean, because there were other people with y'all.
Yes.
Right.
So, I mean, kind of explain what that felt like. And, you know, obviously you've told me that you were given a phone. So, you know, explain to me what that felt like to know at that point in your head, okay, maybe this actually happening, and then landing and being like, okay, this is actually happening.
Yeah, during the initial takeoff from Russia to Saudi, what we thought was, like, since it wasn't a standard takeoff. It was actually a very steep takeoff.
Oh, wow.
Combat.
Yeah, it was a combat
Oh,
takeoff.
wow.
Yeah, instead of
Straight
even like
up.
this.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was basically flying like more or less like straight up, and we thought that
Commercial plane.
Yeah.
So we shot- yeah.
That's funny.
we thought
That
that
would be
we
a
could still
sight
be
to see.
shot out of the sky still, so
Yeah.
we know that we weren't in the clear. That was
Oh,
very
wow.
big
I
fear
didn't
for
think
us.
about that.
Yeah, and when like mid takeoff, the attendants guards.
Yeah, both.
Yeah,
The flight attendants were some
Yeah.
type of like secret police.
Yeah.
type thing.
Like they're not.
They were very good.
Yeah.
They were very
Yeah.
attended. They
Yeah.
got us everything we needed.
Yeah.
They were great, but yeah, they were not normal.
Yeah.
attendants.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like mid like takeoff, they were
Yeah.
actually explaining to us as we were like steeply taking off, like, hey, you guys are safe basically, and there's more to it, but
Yeah.
more or less you guys are safe.
Yeah.
We got treated better. We got clean water for the first time in like months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Water, we got clean clothes. I mean, they really took care
Good
of us.
food.
Yeah.
Like,
They fed us. I mean, they were great. They were really great. But even through all that, it was still just very,
Yeah.
are we actually being
Yeah.
released?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking in your head, like, is this actually happening? Or maybe I'm actually dreaming this. Like, you never know.
We're still gonna get shot out of the sky?
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause that's true. Until you said that, I've never thought that.
Yeah,
Okay.
like a couple like back to like, oh, am I dreaming this?
Yeah.
Like that actually was a thought process that went through my mind. Like, is this even real, honestly?
Yeah.
Because a couple times in prison, I would have like a really good dream, just like a nice dream, like, oh, this is a really nice dream, just like normal mundane life. And then there's two instances. One, I would wake up because artillery's like hitting the area. I'm like,
Oh,
oh, okay. Or I mean, outgoing, right?
Well, I mean, there's some of these.
Yeah, because
We're out.
it was a lot of outgoings, and
yeah.
those would wake us up because they had
Yeah.
RDPs closer to the civilian areas. And another time I was like, again, like dreaming, I woke up and I just saw like super happy smiling,
Yeah.
and I saw the grate that was our windowsill basically. I was like, oh yeah, huh, I'm in prison.
Oh, yeah. This dream's actually not reality. It's just
Yeah.
a dream.
Yeah.
All right. So wrapping this up, obviously, thank y'all so much for taking the time to
Yeah, of
join
course.
me. And you kind of hit the nail on the head. This is one of my last questions. If you could go back in time, knowing what you know now, would you still go? Obviously, you without a doubt
Yeah.
would still go.
That
You
was
too?
Without a doubt, yeah,
Awesome.
no regrets whatsoever. Yeah.
And I want to give y'all time to, obviously say whatever you want to say. Obviously, there's people you would like to say something to or
You wanna take that?
recognize, like y'all want
You could.
We know that there are still Americans being held
Yeah.
overseas. We know our government's doing everything they can, but what they do have to understand is that on the military spectrum of it and the
Mhm.
civilian, it's completely two separate
yeah,
instances. When it comes to the military, it's
Yeah.
a simple trade of military personnel.
Yeah.
Because under the Geneva Convention, Alex and I are legal combatants.
which by the way, I want to say that I have known this because I was the nerd that was reading all this when y'all were gone. I'm like, they do qualify.
Right,
They
yeah.
do. Because people are saying they don't, like, no, like they do because of this.
I've read the law.
Yeah.
Yes, I feel so vindicated. Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
But under the Geneva Convention,
Yeah.
Alex and I and all the other
Yes.
foreigners
Yep,
are legal combatants. We are not mercenaries.
yep,
And so we fall under, again, military.
Yeah.
And again, it was completely illegal what they did to us.
yes,
We were not prisoners, we were hostages,
Yep.
unfortunately. And then on the civilian side, it's unfortunately more complicated than that because it's a civilian on civilian trade. There are still a lot of Ukrainian POWs that are still
Mm.
there that is definitely being treated
Mm.
way worse because of their nationalities.
wow,
And we need to think of them.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, just to, I mean, kind of piggyback on that is that people have to realize the war's not over.
Yeah.
We are home and we are just amazingly appreciative of all the things that all the people did
Mhm.
back here to get us home. But just because we're home doesn't mean the job's
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Like he was saying, there are hundreds of Ukrainians still in prison.
Thousands,
Very,
probably.
yeah, thousands probably in very poor conditions. We need people to remember that the war's still going on. Ukraine still needs help. They still need support.
Yeah.
Keep this going until the war's over.